Unit 1, Day 5 video involves more algebra review. We're solving equations in this video. The steps are listed here for you, so feel free to read through that if you feel like you need that review. Question 8 is here for one reason and one reason only, because as you do minus 8 from both sides in your attempt to get x alone, you will notice that what you're left with on the left-hand side is negative x. So whatever you're left with, you always want to pay attention to what that sign is that's on there. So I have negative x equals negative 6. We know we're going to divide by negative 1 and end up getting an answer of x is equal to 6. Question 2, when I have one fraction equals another fraction, the easiest way to solve these is to cross multiply. So I'm going to cross multiply 3 times y is 3y, equals 2 times 6 is 12, divide by 3, and we're going to get y is equal to 4. There's many of you, I'm sure, that do not need to write this step that shows that you're dividing by 3, or this step that you're subtracting 8, and I don't care if you do that in your head, you just have to make sure that you're good at it. A question like number 3 can be slightly intimidating because when you look at that question, you see the fraction. Your goal is still the same. You want to get the m alone. So I'm going to minus 3 from both sides. So I have negative 5 equals m over 5. When I get to this point, I'm kind of back to where I was in question 2. If I put this over 1, I now have a fraction equals a fraction, and I can cross multiply to solve. So when I cross multiply, I'm going to get m is equal to negative 25, and that equation is now solved. In question 4, I'm going to add 1 to both sides, again with the goal of getting my variable alone. This time the variable is c. I get 9 is equal to 18c. To get the c alone, I have to divide by 18. If in your head you're thinking the answer is 2, you are incorrect, and that is the one reason why this question is on here. 9 over 18 is not the same as 18 over 9. We have 9 over 18, which is 1/2. If you were thinking 2, that's 18 over 9. They are not the same. Make sure you pay attention to that. In question 5, they have us combining like terms before we continue on and solve. So we have an 8x and a 2x on one side of the equation. We're going to combine them together. I'm going to minus 3 from both sides and get 10x equals 90. I'm going to divide by 10 and get that x is equal to 9. So my final answer on that one is 9. In question 6, I'm going to add x to both sides. And there's a couple different places where you can start on this question. I'm just choosing to start here. So 5x minus 3 equals 47. I'm going to add 3 to both sides, so 5x is 50. And then when I go through and divide, I get that x is 10. The equations that we're solving on this page should be ones that you're very comfortable with. You've been doing these kinds of equations for years. I'm going to flip the paper over. I think it's going. There we go. And on to question 7. In question 7, one of the things that you can do is multiply through by the denominator, the least common denominator. And in that way, you get rid of the fractions that are there. Or you can distribute this 1/4 if you want and work with it from there. So it's kind of up to you. My personal opinion is I hate looking at fractions in an equation. So what I'll do is I'll recognize that my least common denominator is 4, and I'll multiply both sides of this equation by 4. So I'm going to multiply a 4 on this side, and then I'm going to multiply a 4 on this side. 4 on this side is 4 over 1 times 1/2. It's half of 4, which is 2x. Over here, this 1/4 is getting multiplied by all of this. So all I have to do is multiply the 4 times 1/4, which gives me 1. So this is 1 times x minus 8. So I have 2x equals x minus 8 minus the x from both sides, and get that x is negative 8. The next question has parentheses in it. Quick little reminder on parentheses, they're always governed by what's in front of them. In this case, there's a negative 2 in front that needs to get distributed through. Nothing happens with the 5y. So this equation is 5y minus 2y plus 10 equals 19 when I distribute. Combining like terms gives me 3y plus 10 equals 19. Minus 10 from both sides, so 3y is 9. Divide by 3, and you end up with 3 for your answer. In a question like number 9, the x is not getting distributed through the parentheses. It is not smushed up against them. The only thing smushed up against them is this minus sign the x carries along. So instead of being positive 12, it'll be negative 12. Instead of being negative x, it'll be positive x. I end up having 2x minus 12 equals 38. 2x is equal to 50. X is equal to 25. So final answer, 25. Please pause the video and do question 10 on your own, and then come back and check your answer. Please check your answer for number 10. And we will move on to questions 11 and 12. For question 11, there's a couple different ways to do this one. If you are getting x's on one side, that means you're subtracting 2 1/6 x from both sides. If that's what you're doing, you might need to go on the side and write down exactly what fractions you're subtracting. This is why earlier in this unit we did the subtraction. I want to get a common denominator, which in this case, of course, is going to be 6. So I'm going to times by 2, I get 2. This one already has a common denominator. So when I subtract, I get 1 1/6. So this is 1 1/6 x equals 7. If you're not sure what to do at this point, here would be my best recommendation. I would turn 1 1/6 into 7/6. And if you have a floating variable, is what I call it, doesn't look like it's in the top or the bottom of the fraction, it always goes in the top. I can put this over 1, and then I can finish by cross multiplying. So when I cross multiply, I get 7x equals 42. And then when I divide, x equals 6. So this is nothing more than a two-step equation. It just seems a little bit more involved because you've got those fractions in there that you're dealing with. In question 12, I would cross multiply to solve. So this is 5 times x plus 3. Just as a reminder, it's 5 times the quantity x plus 3. You want to make sure you're distributing that 5 through. And then the same thing happens on the other diagonal. It's 2 times 2x plus 5, distributing again. So 5x plus 15 equals 4x plus 10. When I solve, I get x plus 15 equals 10. X is negative 5.